What's up, guys? It's Ashlee Tate, and you're watching The Social Life. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are live. And if you have any questions while I am going through this, please just go ahead and leave your questions at the end, and then I will leave some time to get to those at the end. But I really wanted to talk to you guys today because I had a question from someone inside of the Unleash Your Purpose course. And they were talking a little bit about, what their mission is and trying to kind of solidify what that mission is. And that's one of the things that we do in that course. And I usually really love doing that. But I realized that there are a lot of questions that I would have someone ask. Like if I was starting over, these are some of the questions that I would ask myself if I were going to start a nonprofit. And I think they're questions that will really help jog your mind about how you want to see your organization thrive, how you want to see your organization built, the types of things that you would want to add into your organization, how it's going to fit in with your life, all of those things that really help us manage it all and design a life and business that we really love. So when I started doing my nonprofit and just coming up with the idea, I was kind of like, I just want to make a difference in the world. And I knew the problem that I saw. I had a way of thinking that I might address it. But sometimes people don't talk about, while you're doing the research, you started with one idea, but when you're doing the actual research and you're talking to people with boots on the ground and you're looking at your demographic, the entire picture starts to come together, and it may be a little different than the actual original idea that you had from the start. So I want to kind of alleviate that pressure that when you come into either the Unleash Your Purpose course and you're starting there, and we're starting the whole process of getting your 501c3, and we're talking about your mission and your vision and all the steps that you have to go through, getting your board, all of those things. I just want to take that pressure off of you that it may not be perfect. It may not even be perfect at the end of the 30 days. And sometimes you're continuously changing that over time. But these are just 10 questions that I want to go through that are going to help you think about some of the things that maybe at the very start you aren't considering or you haven't yet thought about. So like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave those as I'm talking. If I can answer them quickly, then I will. If not, I will make sure that I leave some time at the end to answer those questions. So yeah, if I were in her shoes, I would ask her to really do a needs assessment because part of that is, now a needs assessment sounds really big. It sounds like something, that's going to be hard to do, but really it just involves some of these 10 questions. And I add a few more in that I think are pretty pertinent to starting a social impact business. And really you should do this for any business. So the reason I'm going to ask some of these questions are just to kind of get you flowing. Okay. Now, one of the things I do want to make sure I just make very clear in the beginning is when you have a nonprofit, or when you're thinking about starting a nonprofit, I do encourage you all to think of it more as a social impact business, because social impact businesses can be for-profit and they can be nonprofit. Now, the difference between the two is that a social impact business that is for-profit might make money and may not be associated with the IRS as far as, having to receive a nonprofit status, which is what makes a nonprofit, a 501c3. And they may be a profitable business that is very focused on building their whole mission around a purpose, but they don't have a charitable, like a fully charitable aspect of their business. A nonprofit is built around a fully charitable aspect of their business, like you're giving something, charitably, you're asking for donations. You're really focused on the charitable aspect more so than the profitable aspect that has a purpose attached to it, if that makes sense. So that's why I like to use the term social impact business. So anyway, so let's start off with number one. Number one is really, you need to understand how the market is going to respond to your mission. So if you were going to start any business, you would do a little bit of a needs assessment, and you would look at the market and say, is there room for me in the market? Even if the market's saturated, sometimes if you're doing things just a little differently, you can talk to a different segment of that same broader market. And so I want to keep that in mind, that that's one of the things where I'm talking about the market. I'm talking about there's segments of the market, and then there's your overall wide market. So let's just say we're going to focus on helping kids. There are so many different ways that you can help kids. You can focus on the market of childcare and giving parents a place to bring their children, or you can focus on the area of extracurriculars, which is what I focus on. You can focus on the area of youth, where you're providing a space maybe for youth to come together, a safe space for them. There's lots of different pockets inside of a market. So I want you to think about it from that perspective. You have to really think about, is this what your community needs? So depending on how broad or large you are trying to create a nonprofit or a social impact business, you want to look at, can the market bear what I'm planning to give? Can I fit in somewhere in my market? And does my particular market, meaning it could be your local market, it can be the statewide market, it can be a national market, an international market, does that market need more of what you're giving? And can you sustain the market, if you were to get all of those people, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's really creating the processes around, if I was just inundated with a ton of people, would I be able to withstand that? Could my business and my processes withstand that? And when I first started, I realized very early on, I was getting a ton of clients that needed the services that we were offering, but we didn't have the infrastructure really at the start to be able to do all of that. So we'll get into that later, but I just want to make sure that you understand, when I'm talking about your market, how will it respond to your actual mission? And the best way to get out there and find out about this stuff is to go ask people who are in a similar market to what you're doing. That doesn't mean you have to go out and explain, all of the aspects, every detail of how your nonprofit is going to work or how your business is going to be set up. You don't have to give the ins and outs of those types of things, but you should go out there and at least talk to people and find out, here's the gist of my idea. What do you think about it? And I did that, and I was very cognizant of the fact that I'm not giving away all of the details or the details that make my mission unique. Okay, how my program's actually going to work. So you want to only do that with people that you trust and that you really respect and believe have your best interests at heart. So that is a extra tip on that. So number 2, how do you want to build your life and work schedule? Like, are you going to be the person that's going to run the program, or would you like someone else to do it? And I think this is a really critical piece of starting your social impact business, and really any business. If you're saying, hey, I want to start a bar, and you know that bar, runs 24/7, are you going to be the person that's going to be there 24/7? Because if you have a family or you have young children, that's not going to work, right? And let's just say you work a 9 to 5 and you want to start this social impact business on the side. Are you going to be able to really put in the amount of time and effort that you need to in order to make this work? And that will also dictate what type of social impact business you're actually going to create. So I knew that I would not be able to, do any sort of mentoring or anything like that. I didn't have the time to do that at the time. I had another business. And so I decided to make everything online, and I wanted everything to go through that online process so that I could manage it on my off hours and focus my time then. And I wasn't beholden to, being available 9 to 5 or having specific hours that people could call me, or the needing to use my cell phone. Everything could be done via email. Everything could be done via the website. So I want you to think of your social impact business in relation to your life as well. You guys know that I talk a lot about managing it all. And it is really important to make sure that you are giving yourself the time that's necessary to be able to manage it all. So don't put more on your plate than you need to. I will talk about that a little bit later at the end too, on how you can do that. But I want you to think about, what type of work schedule would you like? How do you want to build this into your life that you live right now and lead right now? number 3, kind of this rolls right into this next one, but how much time is going to be required of you? And I do want to let you guys know that I have put this all into a worksheet, all 10 of these questions. I will add this link at the bottom of the replay on YouTube in the description, and then I will add it into the bottom of the comments for my other places. So don't feel like you need to write all this down. I have a worksheet for you that you can just download and then go through the questions on your own. This is just a time where if you want to ask some questions, you can, or if you want to really kind of just start letting those juices flow and think about that, let's do that right now. So how much time is going to be required of you? Now, this is a little bit different as in regard to how you're going to build your life around it, as opposed to how much time is going to be required. When you're starting any business and you're in that startup phase, it requires a lot of time. It requires, I'm not going to say for you to burn the midnight oil. I don't subscribe to that, but I do think that it's going to take some extra time and focus during this startup phase. So really getting the 501c3 is not the hardest part. That's why I made that course. And it's just a very simple, like, I will get you through this in 30 days, walk you step by step through it. And that's the Unleash Your Purpose course, because that's not the hard part. The hard part is really figuring out, okay, how am I going to find balance between, doing this as a passion, building a business, pouring my time into it, building a life, doing all the other things that are required of you, as opposed to how am I going to make the time that is actually literally required of you to run the business. And when I say this, I mean in the evenings and you have to return emails. Do you need help? Who's going to be your help? I don't recommend your board, because your board members are really there as a fiduciary responsibility. They're there to make sure that fiscally you're making good decisions and you are managing your money well, taking care of the donors' finance, taking care of the donations that you're getting, and that type of stuff. So if you need more people to help you, you need to start thinking about maybe, family members or people that you trust in your life that can help you, or want to volunteer. Those are the types of people that you're looking for to get actual help. Okay, so I want to make that very clear. And if you haven't seen that video on whether or not you should have a working board, go check that out too. That's on YouTube. I think there's a big case for not making your board a working board so that you can keep them longer. So the next thing, number 4, is how will you get help? That is probably the biggest question. So of course, I recommend interns. I've always had interns from the high school. I worked with the high school, with my organization, to actually get interns. And then I would always give them a recommendation letter for colleges and things like that, so that they feel like they're getting something out of it too, as it was an unpaid internship. And what are you going to have those interns actually do? You do need to know what you're going to have them do. Now, I don't care if you're a for-profit or nonprofit business. I think this is an excellent way to give back to your community. You work with the interns since they are high schoolers. You work with them in a public space so that, they have a place to be safe and you're safe as well. And you guys are just out in a public space. That's all I want to make sure it's very clear, because these are minors and you want to make sure that you are being safe. And we would just go to Barnes and Nobles, or we would go to Starbucks, and that's where we would work. And I would have a project laid out for them, or ask them to do social media or different things that we needed. But that has worked out for many years very well, and I would absolutely recommend that for you. Volunteers are another thing. Volunteers obviously are a very common thing for nonprofits and social impact businesses. And you just want to make sure that you're giving your volunteers something valuable to do. Okay, we don't want to just use them for anything. Give them something to do that's valuable, so that they feel invested in your organization and in your business and what you're doing. So help them find their strengths and where it fits best into your organization would be my best advice here. And start thinking about how you're personally sourcing them. So are you going to be the main contact, or are you going to find one volunteer who's going to manage the other volunteers? Or are you going to be the person who's going to do the interviews at the high school to find your interns? Who are you going to connect with? All of those types of things are things to keep in mind. And you want to have these as part of your processes when you are creating the start of your nonprofit or your social impact business. Okay, the next one is a unique value proposition. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is because when you have all of these nonprofits, all of these new for-profit businesses, just like if there's two breweries down the street from each other, they're going to have to do something a little differently, right? They're going to be focusing on a specific target market. And you want to make sure that you know exactly who you are focusing on when you are starting your social impact business. We don't just want to say everyone should want to donate to our nonprofit or everyone wants to buy from our business, because that's just not the way it works. It's just not. The market is way too crowded for everyone. This isn't special for nonprofits or social impact businesses. This is for any business. The market is so crowded that you need to be able to stand out. So maybe you're the person that caters to people who love Guinness. I really don't even know why I'm talking about beer so much. I don't even drink beer. But there's tons of breweries like everywhere. So I feel like you have to kind of have a way to stand out and be unique. So if you enjoy Guinness, you're going to try to find the best Guinness in town, right? And that person that was able to market themselves as the best Guinness in town is where you're going to go. Now, let's just say that, I'm going to use my nonprofit as an example, but with my nonprofit, we work with extracurriculars for kids. And I wanted to reach donors who want to support children, but maybe you have your own kids and you have extra income. So you want to be able to donate through a website and say, yes, I want to help that kid get into gymnastics. And they're able to do that and they know that it's taken care of. But they don't need to go pick up the child to take them to gymnastics. They know that that end is on us and the parents and the teachers that we work with. So it's just good to understand how you're going to resonate with people and exactly who you're trying to resonate with. So try to think about how you're a little different and write that down as your unique value proposition. What is it that makes you different? And if you aren't sure, please go ahead and write it into the comments and I will leave a little time after to answer those questions. Okay, so the next thing is decide the main purpose of your organization. Now, sometimes I'll hear people say, oh, I want to empower, I want to educate, and I want to, support. Let's just say they have, 3 different words or something that they're going to do for a specific group, let's say women. Okay. But when we're talking about the main purpose, what is the main purpose of doing those things? And that's what you need to answer in your mission. The main purpose of doing all 3 of those things, empowerment, support, education, is to lift them out of poverty or break the cycle or whatever that may be. And all of these things I'm talking about really do help you solidify your mission so that when you start to build your business around it, you know exactly what you're doing. Because when questions arise or people say, hey, I'd love you to be a part of this, or I want you to come and join this, you have to be able to ask your mission. Does this apply to my mission? Does this help my mission? Does this work for my mission? I always tell people that your mission really becomes your true north. It is what helps you decide if you should be doing this or that. And it will be great for your board as well. So it's important to decide the actual main purpose. So if our main purpose is to help kids get into extracurriculars, but we could get a grant if we were to bring extracurriculars into the school, I can go to my mission and I can say, that doesn't really fit within our mission. We're not trying to work inside the schools. We're not trying to bring that program into the schools. We're trying to help kids that can't stay after school get into extracurriculars in a different type of way. So it's very important to be super, super, super crystal clear, okay, on your main purpose. And if you don't know what that is, start to do some community research. Find out if there's already organizations that are out there that do what you're talking about doing. And then if they do what you're talking about doing, where is it that you can fit in and do something a little bit different? And this falls into the previous one about your unique proposition, because those things will help you determine what's my unique proposition that makes me stand out from everyone else. So our next one, number 7. Our number 7 is walk through your entire program. And when I say to walk through your entire program, I mean literally from, okay, where did they find you? Did they find you online? Did they find you at the grocery store? What if someone asks you what you do? Do you start with a card? How do they go through your entire program? And it's really important to do this because I think this is probably one of the absolute best pieces of advice, is to actually walk through it from start to finish. From your client's perspective, the people who are going to be receiving your program services, and then also from your donor's perspective of what are they going to see when they go to your website? What are they going to do next? Then what do I do? How do they get to the client? How do they help the client? How am I saying this? All of those things are so important. And I do talk about all of this inside of the Unleash Your Profit course, where I walk you guys through how to start making an income, how to monetize your mission, how to really start building a business over, your whole mission and how it's set up and all of those things, and understanding your target audience and how you're going to find them and all of those things. So if you're interested in something like that, I do do weekly coaching on that every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I love having you guys in there. I love talking to you guys. And that's where I can do more, one-on-one with you and talk about your specific business. So yes, those are some of the things that I really wanted to focus on. But this little piece of advice is huge. And if you haven't done this yet for your business, I would definitely recommend just stopping. I really think this is helpful for any business, nonprofit, for-profit, social impact, whatever. Stop and just walk yourself through the entire process. Okay, where do they find you? What are they seeing? What are you saying? Then what happens? Then what happens? Then what happens? And answer that until you get to the very end and they're in the exit portion of your business. This is huge. I could not be more emphatic about this piece of information. If you take nothing from this whole process, doing this one thing will really help you if you do it for both your clients and your donors. Number 8, do you have a referral source to maintain the flow of your clientele and donors? So one of the things that I found early on was, I didn't want to be going to every single school trying to ask them if they have, kids that they wanted to refer, or if, I didn't know if I wanted to have self-referring people to, self-refer themselves to our program. So I had to come up with how are people actually going to be able to refer themselves? What am I going to tell people if they ask me, can I refer myself to the program? Can I refer my child? And it was very clear that no, we wanted to work with teachers. We wanted the teachers to refer to us, and we had to put those processes in place to make that possible, so that we always constantly have a referral from teachers. We're not doing it from parents who think that their kids deserve, to be part of the program. So you want to think about the resources that you're going to get and the fundraising that you're going to do, and how you're going to pay for admin, how you're going to pay for the actual programs that you have in place, and move on from that point. And my number 10 point will actually come back to this, and then I'll explain a little bit more on that. Number 9 is, who is your target audience? And I want you to think about this in 2 ways. You have 2 different types of target audiences. You have one who is your donor, the people who are going to be donating to your organization, and you speak to them differently than you would speak to your actual clients that are using your program services. And so I want you to keep in mind that you have two different people that you're talking to when you're running your business. And this is why I say that running a social impact business or running a nonprofit is a really tough thing to do. It's very rewarding, but it's tough to do because you do have two different audiences that you're talking to. Whereas when you're starting a business, you may have one ultimate customer that you want to work with. But I would still recommend, if you have not done my Find Your Perfect Customer worksheet, I would definitely get that as well. And I would do it for both your donor and your client. And then it will tell you how you should be talking to both and how you're going to find both. So that's a big piece of this as well. And then lastly, number 10, what is the most minimum viable impact that you can make? And the reason that I like this is because earlier when I was talking about your referral source, you want to know, what is the absolute minimum thing I can do and create to make my mission happen? So when we start out sometimes with our nonprofits, we think we want to be national. I want to go international. I want to save the world, but we have to start somewhere. And so I encourage you to really think about where you can start and what's the most minimum viable thing that you can do to start making that happen. So as an example of the person that we started with, she wants to start childcare. And I see this a lot. People want to start childcare centers, and that does take a lot to get started. That means that you need to have a childcare center. You're gonna have to have liability to watch people's children. And you may need some government funding and help to get that started. And all of those things are like a huge mountain when you're just getting started. And so you might want to come up with something that helps parents. That might be your big vision and you're working towards this. But if your ultimate mission is to educate women and support them so they can find jobs and whatever, maybe you're going to start with the women first, getting them interviews, and then connecting them with resources that help women who are from at-risk environments, or help women who are from poverty-ridden areas. You don't have to be the one source. You can be the place where people find resources if you don't have those resources to give just yet. And I see a lot of people coming in with a lot of energy and they want to do whatever this big idea is. And it's not to burst your bubble at all. It's just to be realistic about, okay, maybe I can't be national right now. So I'm going to really focus on my local area, and I'm going to become known in that local area. Then I'm going to expand. That's why I talk about all the time creating your strategic vision. And if you haven't done that and you want to do that, I can leave the link to that as well. I have a free preview of my Unleash Your Profit course. And that's one of the first things I ask everyone to do, is to come up with a strategic vision. And the reason for this is because when you're starting these things, there are so many moving parts. But if you put them in place of, okay, here's where I want to eventually go, way over there. But in order to get there, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to take a baby step first, and I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to build on that, and I'm going to do this. And that strategic vision, that whole process that I go through, will walk you through how to set all of those things up. So those are the top 10 questions that I would have you ask yourself if you were starting your nonprofit or had a social impact business, and maybe you just wanted to even start all over again. So I'm going to start with some questions. But the next thing I want to just add in here too is, think about whether being a for-profit or a nonprofit fits best with how you want to set up your business model. Okay. If you want to sell goods and services and you want to have a purpose attached to that, then maybe you should be a for-profit social impact business. But if you have, you know that there's a problem in your community and you want to help that problem, and you believe that other people would also want to help and they would prefer a nonprofit because it's charitable. Now, I have other videos where I talk about how to monetize your mission, and there's lots of different ways to monetize your mission, whether you are for-profit or nonprofit, but specifically nonprofit for those of you who are looking to make some sort of an income. There are lots of ways to do this, but what I want you to keep in mind is that when you're starting with your mission, I want you to try to be as clear and as honest with yourself as possible as to whether you really should be a for-profit or you should be a nonprofit. And when you lay out both sides for your business model and you start to go through that business model, like, does it make sense to be a for-profit business? You'll know as you're walking through, you will know. And on the second part, you'll know if you're supposed to be a nonprofit, so you just, or non, whichever one I said opposite, I think. But you will find out once you start to kind of get your things together. Now, Venus, thank you so much for being here. You had a question. When applying for the EIN for nonprofit, do I need to input my SSN or for the responsible party? Yes. So you can also apply for EIN. I think you actually have to apply for that. But I think if you're a sole proprietor, you can do your social security number. I've been so far out of that game, but I do walk you through that 100% inside of the Unleash Your Purpose course. And it tells you exactly what to do every single day, like exactly how to go through your EIN. We walk through every piece of that. So if you're unsure, you can absolutely sign up for that course if you'd like. And I will actually leave the course here for you guys. And then I will leave the link as well to the download, so you guys don't have to copy all of this stuff down. So let me see here. And then let me try to give you guys that link. No, okay. I will get that link and I will add it into the comments once I turn this off. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I can stay on for a couple of minutes and answer those. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, TR from Rwanda. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being here today. Debbie, hi. And Juliet, hi. Thank you guys for being here. So I don't see any questions as of right now. So I will let you guys go, but thank you again so much. Remember, starting a nonprofit, you are already like remarkable, because most people don't have the courage to do it. And really any business, a lot of people lose the guts to do it. But I just want you to keep these things in mind when you're starting up. Ask yourself these questions, be honest about it. Remember that your mission will, evolve with you. And so will your vision, your overall vision. So don't feel like everything has to be completely laid out perfectly and you can only have this big vision and only execute that. Start with your minimum viable and then work off of that and build on that as you go. So it's a journey, you guys. So just don't stress about it. Anyway, I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.